This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Okay, ta-da. Okay, we're interviewing Angela Terry. I'm going to do an intro here in just a minute, but I'm giving myself a little bit of buffer on the recording. So, okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. For Raiders Entertainment Radio, my name is Patricia W. Fisher, and it is Monday in December, and I'm losing track of time, the 6th. And here's the big deal. I decided to feature more authors in December because there's just too many authors out there with great holiday books. And so I'm actually putting extra shows on in the month of December. And one of the people I get to interview today is this fabulous woman named Angela Terry. She's an attorney who formerly practiced in intellectual property law at large firms in Chicago and San Francisco. She is a Chicago Marathon legacy runner and races to raise money for PAWS, PAWS Chicago, the Midwest's largest no-kill shelter. She lives in San Francisco with her husband and 2 cats and enjoys throwing novel-themed dinner parties for her women's fiction book club. Okay, we're going to have to talk about that because that just sounds way too fabulous. So welcome to the show, Miss Angela Terry. How are you today, my dear?
Great. Thank you for having me.
I think you're the first guest I've had that throws novel themed dinner parties. So tell me, like a general theme, tell me your most favorite one. And then what are give me like 3 of your favorite things to bring into the party.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I think so. This group kind of started 10 years ago, and because it started in my living room and it happened to be a book in Chicago, I made, and I'm formerly from Chicago. So I made a deep dish pizza. And from there, things just kind of, and then it was funny because our second meeting was 50 Shades of Grey, which just,
oh, wow.
And then I made these cupcakes and I did like different shades of gray for
wow.
each of the cupcakes. Yeah. And so so when I read a book, I am always thinking about food.
Right.
And I think some of my favorite ones have been when the author comes. We have an author visit, because then I have to step up my game. And and so some of the authors we had Meg Donahue come visit, and she had this book called Dog Crazy. And so I made these my normal sugar cookies and gingerbread cookies, but I put them all in dog shapes.
Oh, wow.
And then I think we had Laura Dave come in, and she actually called in to ours. And hers was really great because her book took place in a winery in Sonoma. So of course that, it's very easy to do a harvest menu. We also, we read Anne Ma's, I think it's called The Vintage Year. I can't believe I'm messing this up, but I'm actually right next to my bookcase. But again, she did another winery in, Burgundy, France. And so I think anything that's kind of like food, like anything that's location based. We did My Brilliant Friend, where I just got to make an Italian feast, and I'm half Sicilian, so I really enjoy doing a lot of Italian cooking. So yeah, and then we've also done some potlucks in our group, and so everyone will bring, what a dish that they think and says something about our book club, or about the book we're reading.
Right. So do you rotate who gets to pick the book and then decide? I mean, how do you decide the book?
It's just very general. We're all friends, and so we will read a book. So I'm kind of the point person for the group. So the group kind of started because they said, Angela, if you start a book club, like, we'll join. And so, and it had to be in my living room, because at the time we were all in little tiny San Francisco apartments, and mine just happened to have the larger living room. So I said, okay. And so from there, I ended up hosting it at my house. But for picking the book, it's really, we have a very loosey-goosey way of doing it. We'll read a book, and then we'll just say, what do we want to read next month? Or people will just email books to the group and be like, hey, I read about this book. This sounds interesting. Let's read this. So yeah, and so we kind of have just been really loose with this for 10 to 12 years or so. I think, gosh, we were talking about this yet. So I actually met my book club yesterday. So we were talking about how long we've been going on. And yeah, I don't know. It's sort of weird. It's like these loose rules have kind of worked for us, but we do have one rule we have is it has to be a book by a woman author
Okay.
and a book written, it has to be a novel.
Okay.
So we don't do memoir, we just do fiction, and a book written for adult women, meaning so no YA or anything like that. And so those are kind of the general, we kind of stay within that kind of rule. But other than that, everyone just kind of picks books and we just decide.
Is there a genre, like I'm not a big horror reader. I mean, that's not to say that there aren't amazing horror books out there, and I have read some, but are there some that people are like, yeah, I just can't, I just can't read that genre?
That's really funny because now that I think about it, we haven't really read horror, but we have read books that have ghosts in it.
Mm-hmm.
And one person was like, I'm not coming. I don't like ghosts. And she's very, yeah, like, that's fine. But so that's actually ended up how we ended up doing only novels, because in the beginning we were reading some memoirs, and after the third memoir, people, I got a lot of comments saying that they would prefer to read fiction.
Right,
but,
a bit of escapism.
Yeah, and I think too so we haven't really read horror, and nothing's really off the table as long as it's an adult fiction book written by a woman.
Okay. Well, that sounds amazing. I mean, it's not like you don't have a ton of books to pick from because there's just too many out there to read.
Right. I mean, so we've read fantasy books, and I'm not normally a fantasy reader, but we read, like, one of my favorite books we read was Madeline Miller's Circe. And that's not something I would normally be drawn to, but because, I mean, that's the joy of book club, is you discover books you wouldn't normally read. And I was just blown away by the language right in the beginning with all these Greek gods, and it's so poetic and lyrical, and it's what was one of my favorite books, and I wouldn't have picked it up if it wasn't for book club.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were able to walk through a bookstore every day and look at every single book, there's no way you can absorb them all. I mean, there's just so many good, wonderful books out there. So
I know.
And I remember seeing the cover for Circe, and it was beautiful.
Oh yes, yeah.
So tell me, what has been your favorite thing to cook so far?
Gosh. This is going to sound really crazy, but it was more of a challenge.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was my favorite thing. We had an author come and visit, and she was vegan and celiac.
Oh, okay.
And
yes.
Yeah. And so, trying to figure out a menu that kind of worked within those, those stringent rules and not poison our guests.
Right.
And so it was really interesting. And it was it's a funny thing too, is like the book took place in Florida, and it was a very water-based book. So it was seafood would have been more natural.
Sure.
And so I made scallops, and I'm doing little air quotes. People can't see me. The scallops are really just leeks that I kind of marinated in a broth. Oh, the other thing is she couldn't eat any oil either. She was oil free.
Oh.
And so, so I thought that seafood based, and everyone really liked it. I mean, they were just leeks, but I had marinated them in a broth with different herbs and stuff. And then we did bruschetta. Yeah. And the bruschetta was, but it was like little sweet potato bruschetta.
Okay.
So the base was the sweet potato, and then we just put the bruschetta on top. And then the salad, trying to do oil free, you have to get really interested with vinegars and herbs.
Lemon juice and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I did little, I think I did little, for dessert, there were little snowflake balls.
Okay.
That were coconuts and, again, no oil.
Wow. Yeah.
Natural coconut, dates and and so I was really worried about it, but everyone really enjoyed the meal. And so that was one of the best compliments. So I think when there's a challenge involved, that's one of my favorite things. But then kind of going the other direction, we had an author come, and it was really easy in her book. In her book, there was always a fireside dinner. And the fireside dinner really was an epic cheese board. And,
wow. Yes.
Everybody loves an epic cheese board.
Yes. Oh man, I can't even imagine how that would have gone. That would have been amazing. And now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I'll serve that to my family for Christmas.
It was so
Um,
fun. And I served it like by my fireplace too. So
oh, wow. Yeah.
keep everything on theme. It doesn't, my fireplace actually doesn't work, but that's
Well,
fine.
it's funny because, you were talking about the cheese board. I always let my kids would try, I mean, I'd get it for them, but if they wanted to try samples in the grocery store, because my feeling was, Velveeta slices are not the only cheese in the world, and we're probably not getting those. So, but I'd let them try, and it amazed me how the people, I'm sure they were thinking, great, these kids are going to just eat it and spit it out. And I've spent time cutting this out, but, they'd each get one. And it was always, your kids aren't going to like that. I'm like, I think I could decide. Thank you. And I won't let them spit it on the floor. I promise. But most of the time they did,
Mhm.
just to do that little sample. So you don't feel like you've bought this teeny tiny piece of cheese for $10.
Right, right,
Everyone has to eat it.
right.
So you have your most recent book are the Trials of Adaline Turner. And I love the cover. It's very sparkly.
Oh, thank
So
you.
tell me about your book.
Sure. So the story is about a 33-year-old workaholic lawyer who has kind of built her life around stability. And that all changes when she runs into her high school crush at the airport. And so this kind of like sets her life, kind of turns everything upside down and kind of sets her on this path where she ends up with a new career opportunity and moves from Chicago to San Francisco. She has always kind of been like, oh, I can't date. And she suddenly is in all these like really messy, complicated dating, scenarios, relationships. And then she also finds herself like she's up for partner that year.
Okay.
And her career has been smooth sailing since then. And now all of a sudden she's like in the middle of this office politics plot. So that is the Trials of Adaline.
Okay. And then I would assume, because you do love food, there's lots of different little nuggets and recipes or nods to great meals in there.
There are. And so I had to be really careful because when I write, I do put like what everybody is eating all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my editor was like, not everyone needs to know every ingredient in the salad. So they just need to know she's eating a salad. It's fine.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's
and
blue cheese.
right. Well, and the beauty of those is that you can always give those to your readers. Like, oh, if you want this recipe, here it is. And so but I mean, it's always fun to go back and see how somebody would have cooked or made or baked something. Because, the way you make sugar cookies may not be the way I make sugar cookies, but then it's like, oh, she uses that. Oh, it's just kind of fun to see the differences. So yeah,
Right.
I think food's a really good bringing together subject and so much fun. So
Right.
yeah, this is your second book,
Yes.
the Trials of Adaline Turner. What made you start writing in the first place? Because you were an intellectual property attorney, and then
Right.
what brought you into wanting to write a book?
So I think it's one of those things where I always knew I was a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always writing stories, even when I was a little kid. As soon as I learned how to write, like I would come home and I would write like fables. I write stories about my stuffed animals, and to me it was always play. And so I always just sort of knew somehow that, I was a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about lawyering is I do litigation work, and it's writing. Like you're writing all the time. Like people think you're in court, like arguing all the time, but really your arguments are in the brief.
Right.
And it was really funny at times because people would say, well, this is good, Angela, but this is very dramatic, because you tell the background story of your clients and stuff. And so, yeah, I've always loved storytelling, and I love to entertain.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my writing, I want to entertain people. And I got serious about it. Well, I got serious about it in 2010.
Okay.
I kind of realized I was having some health issues and stuff, and I just wasn't on top of my game. And I kind of thought, if I'm going to start writing,
Mm-hmm.
I was about 36 at the time. And I thought, now I've got to start.
Yeah.
There's a big learning curve.
Yeah.
And considering that my first book came out in 2020, there was a 10-year learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
True, right?
right. And you have to find your voice. You have to find what you're good at. And even though I had been writing my whole life, like whether it was for legal work. I worked as a freelance copywriter. Like I've always been, you write in school, I was an English major. And so I've always been writing, but writing a novel was completely different. Like I'd always started stories, but I just hadn't completed them.
Right.
And so it's really writing the end that's what kind of makes you makes you a writer at that point.
Yeah, actually finishing the project like really
Right.
fleshing it all the way through.
Right. Like a lot of people, and a lot of lawyers want to be writers.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really interesting. In fact, the lawyer I worked with here in San Francisco in the office next to me, when I left the firm there, I found out like he was also secretly writing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we actually became like a little bit critique partners.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important to note because, for anyone sitting there thinking, oh, New Year's resolutions and all these other things, and why not? Always have really good critique partners, not someone who doesn't really understand why you're writing. You really want to get with a group that says, you don't have to explain why, you just are going to. And then they help you with the actual writing versus having to explain and then why you wrote this kind of story.
Exactly. And it's hard to find that. It's, it's a lot of trial and error, kind of finding your people.
Right. And sometimes people are not, and there's some perfectly lovely people out there, but they're not critique partners. Like they want to write, but they just want you to tell them it's good.
Right.
And they're just going to tell you yours is good.
Right. And that's not, it's always nice to hear, but it's not very helpful in, honing your writing skills.
Yeah. I remember I would send it to my critique partners and say, rip it up, because it's like, you want it to be the best it can possibly be. And so now my daughter, she's at journalism school and she's like, rip it up. Like she'll tell you, yeah. So it's important.
And that's, a lot of times, like when you're first writing, you kind of turn to family and friends because those are the people closest to you. And they're bringing, for me, I felt like they were bringing too much into the story. And it was exactly that. Like they didn't want to hurt my feelings because I now know like how terrible, like the beginning part of Adaline Turner was terrible, but nobody told me because they didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Right.
And also they're seeing you in the writing. And so you have to be able to find people who can be impartial and are just judging the writing without knowing any of your history or your background.
Now, I know I've told it before on the show, but it's been a while, but the reason you get a writer's group or critique group is I got to be on a panel with the Sisters in Crime years ago. And one of the ladies said, the reason you want to be in a writer's group is, the example is, they were all sitting around drinking coffee. And one of the people in the group was going on a second honeymoon with her husband to Italy. And they were going to get to stay in this castle. And she said, and I cannot wait to get there so I can go up to the roof and see how hard I'd have to push someone off the roof and where they would land on the ground.
Oh, wow.
and they're all saying, oh, are you going to run and push? How tall is the ledge? Is this, there's all this. So that's why you need
right.
You be calling someone and are you okay?
Right. I would love to like overhear that conversation at a restaurant or something. Like what is going on there? Like
taking notes.
Are they plotting a crime or are they writers?
Right. It's kind of like that joke about don't worry, FBI, don't do it with my search history. I'm a writer.
Right. So, exactly.
So what is next? Do you have a sequel coming out for this book? Do you have a sequel coming out for your first book? What is coming out for you?
These are all yes, and yes. Okay. So right now I am working on book 3.
Okay.
And that one is actually, it's not so much a sequel, it's a standalone, but it follows one of the characters in Adaline.
Okay.
And so it's actually her work nemesis. It's going to be her story. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to have that done. I'm actually like trying to finish up the editing process. Like, as you know, after like sort of the initial developmental edit, there's a lot more editing, proofreading, copy editing that goes into it. But ideally, I would like to have that out next year.
Okay. So did people ask about this character? I mean, did you have people come to you and say, well, what about so-and-so? Is that what prompted you to want to write about the nemesis, or were you planning to anyway?
She was one of those, I think it's one of those things in my books where And I've actually heard other authors talk about this on your show. It's all about perspective. And so, you never really know what's going on in someone else's life. And
Right.
so you might think someone's being cold and impersonal and, to you, but you might be reading it totally wrong because they could just have something going on in their life and they are just not attuned to you. And so if they're ignoring you, it's not because, or like Adeline has in her mind that this person's trying to steal her case.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to give too much away because,
Sure.
there's office sabotage and stuff, and there's a lot of different players in there. But, I kind of thought, well, what is going on in this woman's life that she would, basically be such a jerk in this book? And so the whole time I was writing Adeline, I was also kind of thinking of this other character. And I was kind of curious about her. And so I kind of felt like I was already taking notes while I was writing Adeline, I was taking notes on this other character. And so it just seemed like a very natural thing to do.
Oh yeah. It's interesting when you start a project and you're so focused on the main characters of that project. And then those other characters start kind of whispering and nudging you and saying, hello, I've got something to say over here too. So it's
Right.
kind of a fascinating thing.
And it was true in my first book too. So my first book, Charming Falls Apart, it's this woman who, on her 35th birthday, she loses her job of 12 years and comes home to find out her fiance has been cheating on her with her maid of honor. So everything kind of falls apart for her and she goes on the self-help journey. But she has this sort of like difficult relationship with her mother in the book. Mm-hmm. And I was really interested in how I was surprised that people wanted to know more about the mother. Like they wanted to know more about her background story. And I really thought the target market for that book would be people in their mid 30s. Mm-hmm. And I'm older than that, but I still thought that would be, but I kind of found like people in their 70s, like were writing me and saying like, they really enjoyed this book. And I think sometimes it's just that universal theme of mothers and daughters.
Yeah.
That people responded to. And so the follow-up book for that one is going to focus more on the main character, Allison, and her mother's relationship. And Allison, one of the plot lines in that book is she really wanted to have a baby. And so at 35 to kind of say like, well, what now? Like, I don't want to start from scratch here, relationship wise and all this stuff. And so I think, Allison's going to want to become a mother. And then she's also going to have this storyline going on with her mother as well. Mm-hmm. And so I purposely ended that book rather than ending it with like the happily ever after with the, when she finally gets the romantic lead. So I have happily ever afters. No, sorry if that's a spoiler, but that's what I write.
Right.
And I actually ended the last chapter with her mom.
Okay.
Because I thought that was, like, yes, she got the guy, but also, that's an important relationship in her life that she needed to repair. And they needed some closure at the end of that book.
Right. I know when I wrote my very first book and I was so excited. And your first book is great because when you release it, you're like, all right, I did it. And I think the second book's harder because your timeline is a lot shorter. Like people are like, okay, where's the next one? And who are you writing about? And but I had someone come up to me and say, what about this character? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, you got to fix it. You have to fix it. It's like, okay, well,
right.
Apparently I've got to fix it. So yeah. So it's an interesting process. So then you start, like you're saying, you didn't expect people to talk about the mother. And then it's like, well, okay, how do I fix it?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of fun actually to kind of, I liken it to a ball of Christmas lights. You're trying to slowly untangle them and not break any. So it actually works.
Yeah. And it is interesting too, since I'm working on book 3, I already know what book 5 is because book 5 is the sister relationship between the sisters in book 3. And so, but when you do that, it makes it a little harder because you are writing on a timeline and you have to make sure like what you're writing fits in with the other books. And so even if they're standalones with different characters, you still have to write within these certain bounds and rules.
Right. Well, do you have a specific method you use for like story? People call it story Bibling or whatever, but do you have a specific method you use for that?
Oh, I wish I did. That would just be so much easier. But really, I'm a pantser. And so, and even with legal writing, they teach you in law school to do everything by an outline. And I have to pants my first brief. And then once I like see all my arguments laid out, then I can say, oh, like this is how I'm going to reorganize it. And so I do the same thing with my writing. So once I get that first draft, then I will outline everything. And then because I have these multiple characters and books, I actually make calendars out for my characters. So I know that things are happening at certain times. And so, so Charming Falls Apart, like that is 2019, that book. And it is on the calendar year. And then Trials of Adaline Turner, that book, it starts in 2016. And again, that's on a calendar year. And book 3, it's going to jump in time. Like it will start in 2009, but it's going to jump in time. And so I just do a Word document for that stuff, for the calendar. Like I just read through the draft, and then if anything's not matching up, I go back and rework it. And then I also use Scrivener. So there's kind of like 2 methods happening. So one, I have a Word document with the calendar, and then I have Scrivener, and all my scenes are, in the note card type thing. And so I can easily move everything around that, if I'm like, oh, that doesn't work, book 3, this doesn't, I'll just tell you the title. It's going to be called the Palace at Dusk. Okay. So that's an exclusive. You heard it here first. And so, by putting in Scrivener, I can just move it around more easily.
Yeah, I literally have like the note cards, and I'll like draw and just trying to make sure I've laid it all out. I need tactile, I need to see it. And and I've tried different things like a Excel spreadsheets, and a friend of mine, Abigail Owens, writes, she uses OneNote, but she's like extraordinarily organized. I mean, it's just beyond my comprehension how organized she is. I have to believe, just for my own sanity, I have to believe that she never gets laundry done all on the same day. I just have to. Otherwise, it's just not right that she would be that organized. So, so I love you, Abigail, but oh my gosh, please tell me you do not get all your laundry done. I just feel human, you just feel okay. We're all human. Yay. So who has done your book covers? Did you design, or did you have someone design your covers?
So I'm with 2 different publishers. So both my books are with a hybrid publisher, and my first book was with Spark Press. And so they do the covers, but I definitely had input. Like I had very much a vision of what I wanted. I wanted my books to be girly, and I wanted them, I said, I want them to look cute hanging out, like poking out of a Kate Spade bag.
Oh, that's perfect.
To be very feminine. And so, but I didn't want it to be like too sweet. And so the color on Charming Falls Apart, I really enjoy the cover, because it's very, it has like a coffee cup. The A in the title is falling into the coffee cup. And, but the cover, it's not like too sweet of a pink. It's more of like a coral rose color in person. And then also for my book, Trials of Adaline Turner, I don't know why, I just always imagined Adaline in burgundy. There's just something about her. And I think maybe it's just like law books are sort of this burgundy color, and she's a lawyer. And then also I just love gold font. And so Girl Friday, so my second book, Trials of Adaline Turner, is with Girl Friday. And so they designed those covers. And so they give you like 8 different options. And so I sort of picked the colors, like I told them what I wanted. I picked the colors, but they came up with a concept, which I really love. And the concept on the cover is the bottom part is San Francisco, and then the top is Chicago. And they're kind of these shadowy images.
Oh, nice.
And then, but it's really more font centric. So, and then it's just the gold font. And the book ends on New Year's Eve. And so I feel like this is just it's a very festive holiday color. Yeah.
Oh, it's so pretty. It's very eye-catching. So, I mean, yeah,
I love it.
It's a great one. Oh yeah, for sure. So, you've got some books coming up next year. Has there been something that you have like on your to-do list to write, like you really want to write?
I have about 20 books on my to-do list.
Right, I know. You could live forever and never get them all done. I know.
Yeah, so my first 2 books, they're kind of the sweet spot between, I'd say, rom-coms and women's fiction. And then I think this third book is it's probably going to be the same thing. It's not so much rom-com, but it's going to be more romance, but a heavier romance. And so it will also kind of push it into women's fiction, I think. And then there is a book that I really want to write, and it's the one, I mean, I've actually started this book when I was 26 years old. Okay. So this has been really sitting on the computer, and I've taken writing classes and courses and tried working on this book. But I think the reason it kind of stumps me is because there's three main characters, two are male, one's female, and it spans 20 years. And so it's just one of those books that I just have to honestly say, I'm not good enough of a writer yet to kind of finish that book. But that's the book that I'm really kind of working towards.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I think my first book, I was writing it, and I was getting good feedback, but I wasn't getting picked up. And I was like, what exactly is going on? And then I ended up reading Jemima J by Jane Green. And I loved the book, but I love the fact that she split up the POV. And so when it was first person, it was all her voice. And then all the other characters were third. And I thought, this is brilliant, because you know immediately what's happening and who's talking. And I, thank you, Jane Green, you're awesome, to inspire. And I tried it with mine, and oh my gosh, it made just switching
so
those
great.
POVs around. It's kind of like a book that screams to be first person versus third. But I knew I didn't want everyone to be first, but I didn't want it's just like, but I'd never seen anybody mix it. So yeah.
She's so brilliant. So I have a confession. That is one of my favorite books of all time, and I study that book too. So I have actually physically typed out that entire book.
Oh, wow.
Just to get in the mindset of Jane Green, because that's exactly it. It's the whole point of view thing. I don't know how to do it. I mean, she's so eloquent the way she does it.
Right.
And it's amazing that is one of her first books too. That book is 20 years old. It's one of her first books, and her technique is amazing. And I can't pull that off yet. And so I've sort of switched around. So this manuscript, I've switched around. I was doing a lot of head hopping, I think, in the beginning. And then I was trying to change it, like, within paragraphs. And then now I've like split it into chapters for each of the characters. And now I want to go back into like the Jane Green style, like the point of view. And but yeah, I'm not totally there yet. I think I need to practice writing. These are more my, I need to really master like the single person.
Right. Well, and there was another technique that I just hadn't thought of, is like Dirty Girls Social Club, and then Good in Bed and they had first person, and each chapter was a character. And I'm like, oh wow, I just hadn't even considered. But when I really started wanting to get into writing, it was right when the whole chick lit thing came about, and you started having, it wasn't all romance, but it wasn't all women's fiction. It was this wonderful little in between. And still is. And I just I thought it was just a brilliant way to really give voice to those characters. Right.
And I kind of wish we still use that term in a way, or came up with another term, because I think a lot of books are like that. What I really liked about the book, they're so voice driven.
Yes.
And so they're really, and you're really, and they're emotionally growing, like they're on this emotional journey. And so that's why I think they kind of like go into women's fiction still, more so than, they're saying like even Bridget Jones is now known as a rom-com, but sure, there is romance, but there's so much more.
Right. It's a huge developmental process. So yeah, I just adore them. They're so much fun. And I think it's, don't get me wrong, I love a sweeping romance. I mean, I've read.
Oh yeah.
Love them. But there is something about reading a book about someone that and like, oh, I know that person, or I've done that, and it's more like just contemporary romance is what they're calling it, and a lot of people are, versus chick lit. But I think that you find yourself going, oh, I can really relate to that person, because they're flawed, and life is messy, and they don't do everything perfectly, and maybe they don't get their degree the first time they go to college. It's like, and that's okay, because people have to grow up and change. And so I love the flawed ones.
Right.
For
And
sure.
I love writing that too. And so
Mhm.
one of my favorite compliments that people have given me is that they really like Adeline's interior monologue.
Mhm.
Because, it's one of those things where you're like the duck, you're like swimming, you're, on the surface, everything looks calm, and then you're like furiously paddling underneath.
Right.
And so she has like a lot of neurotic, so while one scene is happening, there's just like a lot of neurotic, like inner monologue happening.
Right. Was it that meme that's like internally screaming, You're just
Right. Yeah.
shock face and they're
Exactly.
same kind of thing. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today. I really, truly appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. This was so fun. I love your podcast. And so it's been really fun to chat with you now.
Yay! And please come back next year when you've got your next book ready to go, and let's talk about it.
I would love to. Thank
And
you so
maybe
much.
we can even do a podcast just on how to host a writers group or a book themed party.
Oh, I would love that. That would
Yay!
be amazing.
Maybe we could come up with like 5 books, and then you would tell me what you would do to do a party for those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm already working on that.
All
Okay.
right. So we'll set a date and we'll make that happen. So you heard it here first, everyone, because Angela's going to come back and teach all of us how to be excellent hosts of book parties. So
So many exclusives today.
exclusives. It's all about exclusives. Thank you so much. And if you want to find Angela, she is online with her website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. You can sign up for her newsletter, and her book, The Trials of Adaline Turner, is out now. So go ahead and pick it up, and all the links are in the write-up of the show. Thank you so much for being here today. Keep on reading.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.